Lochani. My name is Mudinda Mbevana, and welcome to The Chosen Generation. Today we're talking about finance in a shifting economy. Is entrepreneurship the answer? What are the challenges and where do you get funding? Well, to help us unpack this issue, we have a few guests whom we have invited to share their ideas on this issue. First and foremost, we have Brother Monde Ndlovu, who comes from the head of advocacy and thought leadership from Black Management Forum. We are also joined by Thapelo Moloi, who is an economist. You can share your views on this subject with us, and the hashtag to use is TCG on SID. We love hearing from you, so get typing. It's now time for us to get into the conversation.
That is really tough because with things that are happening in the economy right now, it's really difficult to say people should move forward this type of way. But I think if we create more ideas, like right now, currently, people don't have jobs. People lost their job due to COVID. But if you have a brilliant idea, put it into plan, do something about it, create, you understand what I'm saying? I'm sure that way we have to move on. We have to be creative so that yes, things get better.
It's a space where you're able to do a lot more. You're able to bring out more and do a lot more things, especially in the fourth industrial revolution. So I think it's a space where we're able to grow and build ourselves in a better and economic front.
All right, let's go into the conversation. Maybe I should start with you, Monde. What is an entrepreneur? Or how would you define such a person?
So I think firstly, an entrepreneur is part of the four major factors of production. So it's capital, it's labor, it's land, and entrepreneurship. So entrepreneurship brings together those factors of production, understands their role, and secondly, an entrepreneur is someone who's able to have the ability to see gaps in the market for business opportunities and be able to reward themselves through profit as they engage in either selling or goods or services that they want to be part of that they have identified. So in my view, that is an entrepreneur, someone who understands the role of entrepreneurship in the factors of production and also the ability to see gaps, because not everyone can see gaps. That's why there's labor in the factors of production. So an entrepreneur is someone who's over and above labor, who can see gaps and be able to draw in different resources in order to realize that particular business opportunity.
That's interesting. Maybe, Thapelo, I can bring you in here. Is there something more to the definition that you can add besides what has been said?
No, I think Monde has captured it quite very well. But I think to reiterate the point that for me, an entrepreneur is someone who sees the opportunity where the gap is and basically exploits that gap. Of course, we want to be soft about this, but the truth is an entrepreneur is someone who seeks profit at the end of the day. So no one gets into business just for the sake of getting into business. You've identified an opportunity, you've identified a need in the community or wherever else, and then you exploit it for the purpose of making a profit.
That's interesting. So we sort of looked at what entrepreneurship is, but we have not looked at the personality, the person who becomes an entrepreneur. What kind of person do you need to be to venture into such a entrepreneurship thing? Who must you be?
So I think first of all, like I said, entrepreneurship is not for everyone.
Okay.
Right? Because there is a perception out there that business opportunities are for everyone who can actually do it. Entrepreneurs don't sleep, first of all. Entrepreneurs don't have time for leisure, especially if you're building a business that's going to compete quite well in the particular market. So when you're talking about personality, what kind of person you need to be, there are families that you can say are entrepreneurship driven, right? So the father and mother are entrepreneurs, and the children grow up in that environment. They're exposed to it, but it doesn't mean that they are inherently entrepreneurs. Right? So we've seen that kind of cycle that happens where the family is business orientated, but the children not necessarily business orientated. Maybe they want to be a medical doctor or they want to be a lawyer, etc., which is also equally important. But entrepreneurship is over and above that. I think it is a special gift for you to see opportunity, to generate profit. I mean, I'll give you an example of someone who saw the opportunity. His name is Debs in the East Rand, Deboho Tsipi Not Funeral Home, for an example. He started out as a teacher, right? But he had the ability to see gaps and be able to service the community as well. So I also see entrepreneurship, especially in the Black community, as someone who is a community builder through business, because you are trying to provide basic needs, right, for the market, for the community, and you are able to reward yourself by making a profit. The other part, last point, which is something we've noticed, is that in the Black community, those who venture out into entrepreneurship today don't necessarily do it to deal with poverty, unemployment, and inequality in the community. They do it to create opportunities for themselves. That's why I've got a problem with the tenderpreneurship, right? Because everyone is queuing up to make money. They're not queuing up in order to empower others. That's why they underpay employees. They cut corners because the thought process on what business ought to be is not in them, but they want to cut corners. So there's different kinds of challenges, but fundamentally for me, an entrepreneurship is someone who has the inherent gift of business, who's able to see and put things together.
I want to bring in Tapali. Monde spoke something about finding like-minded people to help you. Do you think you need to be groomed? You're talking about that there's a specific personality that one needs to have, but is there a role where perhaps those prospective entrepreneurs need to find someone who can groom them and move them forward? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think just to add on what Mondo was saying, first and foremost, I agree that entrepreneurship is unfortunately not for everyone. And it's a truth that we all need to accept, that some of us are not entrepreneurs and will never be entrepreneurs. There are people who are good at what they do, but can't turn that into a business that can be profitable. So it takes a certain type of a person. And of course, there's been a lot of studies that have been done to look at what personality traits does an entrepreneur have across different sectors and across different markets. So I think that's the first and most important thing. But to get to your point, I think we all can do with someone who's going to guide us. Someone who's walked the journey before us. There is that African proverb that indlela ikuzwa phambili, you know what I mean? Yeah. So there are people who are better and maybe much more mature in what you want to do. And I think there's nothing that you're going to lose by spending time with those people and just getting to understand exactly what it takes to operate in that particular environment or that particular market.
What about the need for some sort of academic qualification? Do I need to go and study business before I can be successful as an entrepreneur?
I don't think not necessarily that you have to go and study, but of course, going and study does give you that base that you can draw from as well. But I don't think necessarily that you have to go to school. I mean, there's different types of courses on business that are out there, and if you look at just their structure in terms of their curriculum, there's certain things that certain courses drive that in other courses are not driven, right? So, but it's still the same course on business administration or whatever. I mean, you can look at all the MBAs that we have in South Africa. Most of them are different, even though it's little nuances there, but compare them to international, you see a lot of difference there. So already you can see that not necessarily, but it does give you a bit of a base that you can work from and drive from there.
To our viewers at home, please share your ideas with us. The hashtag TCGONSID. What do you think about this? We'll be right back after the break. Welcome back to The Chosen Generation. We are still talking about the issues of finance in a shifting economy. And we would like you to share your views with us, the hashtag TCGONSID. What do you think about this subject? Now, back to our guests. Brother Monde, before the break, we're talking about the importance of an academic qualification. And you had started talking about the NGO space, how those donors really want to know if you can do and take care of their money. Maybe you can continue that thought.
Sure, thank you. I was raising that issue to show that even in a space that is not profit driven, donors want to see people who are able and who have the know-how. Now, what more in a profit-driven space where you want to make a profit, you will want to employ. If you're in manufacturing and you're setting up a manufacturing plant, you're going to want to train your people, and by law, you must train your people as well, through legislation as well. So you've got to then upskill. And when you look at the challenges on education in the country, if you look at the Department of Higher Education PSET report, you look at it's around 6% of the adult population that has degrees in the country. Also around 6% have diplomas. Around 3.5% who have TVET college certificates out of a population of 60.2 million. And 15 million are gainfully employed and 18 million on social security. Less than 4 million in terms of tax revenue, contribute to tax revenue, less than 4 million individuals. So you can see that the system, the economic system is still needs to be transformed. Now, the know-how gives you an advantage, right? Apart from the academic qualification, another trait of an entrepreneur is going beyond the academic qualification and actually doing other online courses which are free. YouTube has got a lot of things that they put up. The whole internet space has opened up to an entrepreneur for them to upskill themselves, which they need to do. And even when you're sitting in a business engagement, you can tell that this entrepreneur knows what they're talking about or they don't know what they're talking about. So even when you look at the education system today, from a primary school level, we're still going to see more challenges going forward in terms of understanding and literacy in terms of math and science, which impact understanding of a balance sheet one day. So if you don't understand maths and science, how will you understand an income statement and a balance sheet, which is part of your business? If you don't have that know-how, an investor from the US that you're sitting with, he says, give me the numbers of your business. What's your turnover? What's your head count? What's happening here? What's happening? If you don't understand that, that investor won't invest. Whether it's international or you look at the developmental finance institutions of the country, which have a mind of their own as well. They like to behave like commercial banks, which they shouldn't. But that's another conversation as well. So I think it's important that an entrepreneur masters a skill, sharpens a skill. One of those skills is the ability to sell. If you can sell, one of my mentors says, if you can sell, you can eat. If you can't sell, then you won't eat. And if you can't sell, it means you're not an entrepreneur. Right? So you've got to have those specific know-how, specific skill set, and money is the business. So if you don't understand what's happening with finance, you don't have a business.
So in essence, what you're saying is that there's a need for upskilling to continue educating yourself as an entrepreneur. I think this is a good segue to bring you in here, Thapelo. Leaving the academics, maybe this could be one of the challenges that many entrepreneurs fail, that causes them to fail. The challenge of not being, academically attuned to what it takes to run a business. What are some of the other challenges that you think entrepreneurs might face when they want to venture into this journey?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of challenges, and I agree that there is a need to upskill yourself as an entrepreneur, because like Monde said, you can't be discussing finances and not know what's happening in your finances. There's not an investor that's going to put in money in a business where someone does not know what's happening in their businesses. But I think equally so, I think that's where I agree with Monde, but where I think I differ is whether that is a need itself. And I'm different because I think there is a way to circumvent not having a qualification, right? One way of doing that we've seen with, if I make a terrible example maybe, is people like Mark Zuckerberg, for instance, who did not complete a qualification in business, but made sure that they've got a team that understands certain bits. All he has to do is, how do I manage all these people, right? How do I manage all these people to make sure that we arrive at what we want to do at the end of the day? So I think that's one. So the need to upskill themselves is definitely a challenge. So we need to find a way to do that. I think some of the challenges that most small businesses also face is, the issue of SME funding, for instance. Where do I get funding for my business? Where do I get money to start this business? Again, I think it's also a hot topic on its own, because is funding really a challenge? Because you've got entrepreneurs that have started their businesses without funding, right? With an idea, but found a way to make that idea work. I could talk of many examples like Theo Baloyi, no funding whatsoever. Today owns a Batu brand that is known the world over. Didn't start with finance, but finance is certainly one of those things that are a challenge to most small businesses. But I think equally so is a team, right? You need a team. Unfortunately, you can't do this alone, right? As much as we think we can. But I think you need a team of people that are going to work with you. So the biggest challenge is, how do you get the right people first, but how also do you place those people in the right positions, right? So you can have someone as good as Monda, but if you misplace him, right, it's what we call in economics underemployment, because it's not where he can be optimally used. So the first challenge is, how do you get people, right? But after getting the people, how do you place them, right, within your business to make sure that they work with you to drive their goal and their dream? And I think lastly, one of the biggest challenges, perhaps that is the foundation of all this in entrepreneurship, is what's your vision and goal? Where are you driving to? Where do you want to see this business? And I think a lot of us don't have that clear understanding. We get into business, but we don't know. If you ask him, so where do you see this business in the next 5 years? A lot of us can't answer where we see our businesses in the next 5 years. Next 10 years, I think that's even a fast stretch for some entrepreneurs to say, in 10 years, where do you see the business? So I think vision is also one of those things that I think a lot of entrepreneurs also struggle with, to clearly define that so that they can chart the way forward.
I don't even want to stop you guys talking, because I'm learning so much as you speak. It's so hard. To our viewers at home, the hashtag is TCG on SID. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. Welcome back to The Chosen Generation. We are still talking about financial issues in a shifting economy. And we ask you to please share your views with us. The hashtag is TCG on SID. Let us know what you think. Let me start with you, Monde. Before the break, I was coming to take your views on some of the challenges that entrepreneurs face. Maybe what are some of the few others that Thapelo might not have mentioned?
So I mean, it's quite a plethora of them, but can't touch all of them. There are challenges on the consumer side. So especially if running a black business, black consumers tend to think that because it's a black business, it ought not to be taken as a professional business. And that impacts negatively on the running of the business, even the pricing of the business. So the consumer, the black consumer specifically, is a challenge in reorientating the black consumer to understand that even a black business is a worthy business to buy from and to procure goods and services from. So stop expecting favors from a black entrepreneur, because it's tough being a black entrepreneur. Second problem is the issue of pricing. Because all industries in South Africa, the way the economy is structured, even an emerging industry, right? Like you look at the medical cannabis, which is going to be massive in this country. There will be 3, 4, 5 major oligopolists that play in that space. Just like in the financial services sector, the banking sector, etc. There's top 4, 5. And all of them are established white businesses. So here you come, you want to be a disruptor. They can price you out, right? By employing economies of scale, right? So they can lower their prices, and they're able to negotiate because they've got long-lasting relationships in their supply chain. Here you come as a black entrepreneur, don't have the wide network, don't have a clear supply chain, struggling with support, have the vision, have the idea, but now you got to look at your pricing strategy. And then there's a black consumer challenge as well. So those are some of the other challenges. The other challenges, very quickly, is the issue of networking. So Afrikaners are very good at this. Jews are very good. Italians are very good in this country, not just in Europe. Here, they are clear that they'll set each other up for success. That is why you'll get an entrepreneur who's white, Afrikaner, who has a matric, even in corporate. You are more qualified than them as a black professional, but they are there because their father picked up the phone and said, please employ John there on my behalf. It's okay. And that is why I believe that we have a majority crisis, because we are the majority, yet we're struggling with some of these things. And they are minorities, but they are able to create major players in all industries. So it's quite a serious challenge, that issue of networking, pricing, and the consumer side as well.
I think on that issue, let me bring you in, Thapelo. How, as a black businessman, how do you begin to tap into a network or even build a new network? How do you deal with that challenge of that Monde so eloquently described?
Yeah, so I'll just share a little bit of a story very quickly. Last week I was flying to Cape Town. I was going to meet a small business in Cape Town, and while I was on the queue to board the flight, this guy, white guy that was behind me, was making a call to his friend and was like, man, I need money. Can we meet tomorrow? I'm flying to Cape Town, but flying back the following day. Can we meet? I was like, no, sure, 12 o'clock, set. So Monday is right. We need to find a way to build that community amongst ourselves, because the other races have done that, right? It's so unfortunate that within our community, once you become successful, it's about you, right? And we need to praise you that you've made it. And unfortunately, once we have made it, we want everyone to now praise us, and we don't look at how to extend the hand, right? So there is a need to build networks, and I think it starts with, I suppose, there's a challenge to those that have made it, whatever that means. But those that have made it, to say, how do they look back at where they come from, and how do they assist the ones that are coming after them? And I think in that way, applying that, we can build that network as a community.
That's very interesting. Maybe we can look at one other aspect. I do sense that there's probably a need to have even more black entrepreneurs if we are going to enter that space. And how do you inspire a young person who may have the personality, may be able to find a network of people? How do you inspire such a person to become an entrepreneur?
I think going back to the issue of networks, that's why black organizations are so key. You have Black Management Forum, you've got UPSIB, which is the black investment professionals in the space. You've got ABASA, which is your black accountants. You have the Black Business Council as well, which is there to be a unifying voice for all black professionals, all black businesses. How well are they doing? Is another challenge as well, because that organization has got leadership, needs funding, etc., but it's got structures, and all of them have got structures. Now, if as a black young person have the gift, have an idea, have the drive and the passion, engaging in those networks which are already there, and NAFCOC, by the way, which is the oldest black organization in the country, engaging in those networks, then you meet stories like Dr. Richard Maponya, right? You move into the BMF, you get stories of Dr. Ruel Koza, Lawton Ndlovu, Don Mkwanazi, Eric Mafuna. You are inspired by those guys and their stories, because you are tapping into that network. You're a member, you're part of that. That also inspires you, because they were able to break new ground in a system that was suppressing them and the black community. But they were able to shine in that space in the late 70s and in the 80s, and NAFCOC obviously before that, within the townships, and developing black businesses within the townships. So you've had those guys. We need to know that history, because the average black young person doesn't know that rich history of black managers, black leaders, black entrepreneurs that have been there, that are there, right? Who are sitting and waiting to be challenged and to be brought into some of these to share their stories, and some of them are doing that. So I would encourage them to join these organizations so that you can grow your network, you can be exposed. Exposure is critical because it stimulates your mind and even listening to them speak. I mean, you listen to Eric Mafuna speak, right? He's a statesman, right? He founded the BMF. He's a statesman. You can hear him. Rich history, rich ideas. When you're sitting and listening to him speak, you always want to be in that environment of top black thinkers. But if you're not in that space, it's going to be difficult because even on TV, you don't see much of them.
Yeah, I think on that issue, sorry to interrupt you, Monde, giving you the final word, Thapelo, because time is going. How do we put emphasis on these black business superheroes? How do we let their light shine so that young people can be inspired?
Yeah, I think without sounding rather too political, because it can get a little bit political, but I think we need to grow our own media. I think that's one way in which we can get our black stories known and get the rich history that we have that Monde has talked about, to say how do we grow that and inspire the young people is through making those stories available, and we need to own the media space, and we need to tell these stories a little bit more so that the growing generation can then learn from them and get inspired.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much. I think, yeah, we definitely need a part 2 of this conversation. We've just started. I didn't even say anything, just listening to you guys. So thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate it. I've learned so much, and I'm sure the viewers have also. To our viewers at home, thank you so much for letting us into your space. And we truly hope that next time you give us a chance. Maybe a final word. I would like to say, to all the Christians out there, there is a God, and he gives us a promise that no matter what might happen in this economy, our bread and water will be sure. So let's continue to trust in that Jesus, the one who saves, who sanctifies and satisfies. We'll see you next week. Goodbye.